Well, a lot of us have been doing a lot of online shopping. We've had our shopping delivered to us, but we've missed that mall experience, that going out, seeing people. And I heard a great quote just before I jumped onto this interview where someone said, shopping online is a transaction. Shopping in a mall is an experience. And a lot of us are hoping to experience that experience again more fully than we have. And joining me on the line right now is Amelia Beattie. She is the CEO of Liberty 2 Degrees. They own a vast amount of retail space, and they have their results coming out, which have been, I suppose, unfavorable, but I suppose there's still hope in the pipeline there. Amelia, good to have you on the line. Tell us a little bit more about what 2020 has been like for you.
Thank you so much for having us. Indeed, people are missing that shopping experience, but it seems that they are back and that they have actually come to enjoy what they really love of Sandton City. 2020 was a tough year. We set out with it starting well, and as the first case was announced, we saw a very sharp decline in both turnover and foot count. During the hard lockdown, we had most of our retail closed altogether. And as it started opening up again, I guess people were nervous. They stayed with their online habits and other habits. And in the fourth quarter, we really saw some encouraging recovery. At Sandton City, we saw only 1.5% of the turnover down on 2019. Now, that's quite extraordinary. So, yes, it was a difficult year. We had to deal with a lot of issues, but we were still able to pay a distribution out to our shareholders. And in the end, that's what's important for us. Our balance sheet is strong, and whilst we believe that we could help where we can, I think the outcome was the best that we could do in a difficult time.
I mean, had any of your sort of risk projections, any of your assessments looking into the future, had you ever thought that you would ever have to encounter something like this? Was there anything that had ever prepared you for a situation where you would have to literally shut down everything?
I don't think anybody have ever thought that that would be the case. Of course, we do a lot of risk assessments and we plan for black swan events and all the things where we test 1 in 50 year and 1 in 100 year events. But I don't think anybody around the world anticipated that today everything will be okay. Tomorrow it will change significantly. And it also created some form of camaraderie between people in the property industry who all dealt with the same thing. People in the international real estate world who all dealt with this. Some of them internationally are still much more impacted than we are here.
I mean, in terms of the rent relief, you touched on it. That was one of the, I suppose, big life vests that a lot of retailers tried to put on and pushed as far as they could. But I guess as a property owner, there was also a limit to how much you could do there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a careful balance between keeping the tenant, get the tenant back up and open so that they could trade and not giving too much away. As I said, we have a strong balance sheet, we have a low loan to value, and that assisted us to perhaps help a little bit more. You only have to sit in front of a tenant that's a small operator or a restaurant that's got a whole life invested in that business to understand how difficult it is. And we need them. We need small tenants to be in our centers. We need the big tenants to be in our centers. So we needed to find that balance to help everyone to step forward with them so that in this partnership, we can get back to offering something to customers so that they want to come back. Because as you say, online retail is great and it will continue to grow. But I think the future of retail is where those two things can live together. You have the online component, but you can come to the mall when you want to experience that walking with a bag. There's nothing that gets to that, meeting your friends. And I think we are all such social beings that being together and going there and find experiences that you can't find anywhere else will remain important.
Well, I had the unfortunate experience of walking through a smaller mall this past week, and they'd been particularly hard hit. And it's nothing worse than walking through sort of this, very quiet space with a lot of wallpapered windows closed, something hopefully opening soon. Santan City seems to have managed to stay quite strong. I mean, I haven't seen much of that happening in Sandton City. What's your outlook like, for the rest of the year in terms of recovery, in terms of getting everyone back on track? I know there's some talk about Stokinikoor being a little bit, on the wonky side at the moment in terms of where that's going.
Yeah, Sandton City's vacancy at the moment is 2.2%. So, of course, there are vacancies, and those we are trying to deal with. And there are new tenants that are interested in opening shops or restaurants. And that's encouraging to see that someone has got enough trust in the environment that we have that they are willing to come and start something new. I think, as I said yesterday during our results presentation, we are very realistic around 2021. You can't just come out of a year like 2020 and think everything will go back to normal. So whilst there are encouraging signs, we understand that it will take some time to get back to where it was before. As long as we can move forward every single day, we have to do something better today than we did yesterday, and so we must go on. There will be tenant failouts that we have to deal with. We've learned through the EdCon and through the Stadtefits process how we can deal with that. Stokinikoor is an interesting one. You would have seen me quoted many times places today where I said that, I believe that we have the best movies in the country. Maybe there are too much everywhere, but Sandton and Eastgate are really great environments. And when that new James Bond movie comes out, you definitely don't want to sit in your lounge and watch it. You want to come to have that experience that you can only get in a movie theater. So maybe there'll be less, but we really hope that they can actually continue to survive because the customers need that.
I mean, to some extent, you've built up an incredible brand around Santan City. I suppose it's one of the, the diamond in the crown when it comes to shopping destinations in South Africa. Having had the history that it has, having the location that you've got. I mean, a lot of that business was also coming from a lot of overseas tourists, which you don't have at the moment. But what is driving footfall into a mall like Santan City apart from brand? Is it a particular art to the way you've curated those tenants? Are people gravitating towards a food experience rather than a clothing experience? What is that sort of secret sauce?
I think it's a combination of so many things. For me, I always say that Sandton belongs to the people of Johannesburg. I think everybody in Joburg knows Sandton. People are proud of it because it's such an institution. It's been there for such a long time. And you would have remembered the ad that Liberty had a few years ago that showed the car in the open field where they opened the plans, and people of Sandton feel that loyalty towards it because they feel that they've been part of seeing it grow. But it's really those little extra things that make the difference. I mean, we've got the large anchors in there, and they are really the best of those tenants that we have in Sandton. But it's putting those extra little ingredients in, those independent tenants, doing events that are a little bit different, creating an environment that is well. Sandton also, when I was yesterday, received its six-star green rating. Now, that is a world-leading achievement, and that just means that it's an environment that is well, that is safe, that is healthy, and all those things together. And of course, we have a great team on the ground there that manages that center. They really know what they are doing. They're passionate about what they are doing, and they give that little extra every day so that the people that come there can experience this mall as really a great, iconic environment.
I mean, one of the things that became quite clear during this pandemic and during this time of business shutdown is how Sandton was always very interdependent of each other. I mean, if you speak to any of the hotel owners, if you speak to any of the other sort of attractions, you know, they were there because someone else was there as well. So if it wasn't the convention center, it was the Gautrain. If the Gautrain wasn't there, then somebody else was dependent on someone else. Did you find that there was a moment where, you know, you connected with a lot of the other people, that there was some sort of conversation within the bigger Sandton precinct with all the other sort of stakeholders to say, look, you know what, we're all on the same boat here, but we need to figure out how do we piece this all back together again?
No, absolutely. I mean, you will know from our vision that we say that we believe in a precinct focused strategy. So the precinct always for us is a really important part of how we manage these environments. They don't just stand on their own and happen all by themselves. We have a close relationship with the Sogesan group, and we have the hotels and the convention center with them. And that, together with Nelson Mandela Square, that we also own next door, and our partners, Pareto in Santan City, we all collaborate all the time because we need each other. The hotels need us, we need those people. The convention center, unfortunately, is closed, and who knows when the travel will open up again. If we had a glass ball, it would be wonderful to say, you know, we believe that by June we'll have conventions there again. And will conventions ever be the same? I think there's new opportunities because you have now learned that you can do things differently. You don't have to all sit in a hall together. You can actually have a convention where people are together and people are all also separate. So I think there's a lot of new opportunities that come from this. Of course, we are concerned about not all the offices returning and that the bigger Sandton might have some excess office space. Sandton also in part in the past used to be successful because of the number of offices around, and people over lunchtime would just pop in and come and get their things. But now people come at other times. So I think there will be continued collaboration. We don't believe in we know it all and we can just operate in our own. We truly believe in collaboration and partnership and working with the people in the precinct to do what's best for the greater Sandton precinct.
Well, Amelia Beattie, CEO of Liberty 2 Degrees, I think that's a very upbeat note to end our conversation. Thank you so much for joining me for this interview.
Well, thank you very much for having me.